Welcome to Conversation with Friends. And I'm Meredith Porte. And you are about to meet an extremely, I want to even say supremely talented musician, composer, just a really all-round, very interesting person. I actually had the opportunity many years ago to meet him. We were working on a program when I was at WLRN, and I remember spending the day with Gabriel Pulido, also known, is that pronounced right? I hope it is. Pulido, also known as Gabo, in terms of his music world, and just watched what he could do with all kinds of equipment and all kinds of instruments, but also all the work that he does, or much of the work that he does, has to do with kind of sending out messages, you know, in terms of our connection to nature, our connection to society, healing music, a lot to talk about, you can tell today, and I'm really looking forward to it. So Gabriel, good to see you.
Hi, Meredith.
Yeah, and I'm always amazed because I get these emails from you, and you're doing another movie, you're doing the music for a movie, you're doing a performance. Are you always onto something new as a musician and a performer, a musician and composer, I should say?
I try to, definitely. I have several projects that are going at the same time, and one stalls and the other goes. So that's basically what happens.
Yeah, and I also have noticed that you work around the world, don't you? I mean, seems like you're everywhere. You could be in Europe, or you've been in Europe. You're in LA. You do a lot of work in LA. Can you just tell me a little bit about how you see yourself as a performer and composer, in terms of what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, I used to be more around the world before. It's been because I used to live in Europe, and it was very easy to travel around. I've been in the States already for many years, and the States is large enough to be also traveling. So you're right. I go a lot to LA, and so I definitely. That's a very interesting question, actually. That what am I trying to accomplish with the music? The music just I'm going to quote a bit of the ambient musician and artist Brian Eno, that I once read something he said, and he said that if there is an urgency on the work that you are doing, if it's not urgent, then it's not worth doing it. So in terms of the music, it just comes, and also I like to try. Also on the technical side of things, it's interesting to try new things, and then on the other emotional, it's just comes. Just there is a need for me either play music, and then the playing and the improvising sometimes becomes finished pieces. So that's basically more or less what happens.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's just part of your whole being, isn't it? I mean, that you began as a musician. You were quite young, weren't you, when you sort of knew that you were born to play music?
I started playing with the electric organ at 4, and then quickly I started lessons with the same electric organ by 6, and I continued lessons through around 12. So I basically started playing pop and jazz standards, a lot of music from Latin America, also bossa novas, and all that era. And then I jumped to synthesizer, and I started to record ideas and create sounds. And then at the same time, also, I got into drums, which my family didn't like at all. So I tried playing drums and taking lessons, drum set. And then the whole thing, became one, because while playing drums, you have ideas, musical ideas. So I could try them on the keyboard and vice versa. While doing things on the keyboard and sounds, you have, I used to have drum and percussion ideas. And because I'm originally from Venezuela, there is a lot of percussive music around as well. So I guess that's in the environment also permeates the music.
Yeah,
In
but
my
I hear
music.
some jazz. I hear a bit of classical in it. I mean, there's like a little bit of everything. You know what? We could talk about your work all day, but to see it is something else. And I am sure that anyone who's watching right now will feel, or I hope they feel, as mesmerized as I was. So why don't we take a look right now at something that's quite amazing. So powerful. To me, that is a meditation. You know, I could sit there and watch it and kind of go into a more reflective state, and also a feeling of something, I'm part of something very ancient when I watch that. Does that make sense or resonate with you, or what do you think?
Yes, just to give you a very brief story on the piece. I composed the piece while I was in the desert in California 3 years ago. I spent about a month, and it was the first time I was in the desert, so I was really mesmerized by the desert. But then the video, I did it during the pandemic, the extreme lockdowns, and I remember walking in downtown Brickell area in Miami, and seeing everything closed, or very, very few people. And that's where I try to link ancient cultural icons and references to some modern references. So that's how all that piece, I did it myself actually, that the whole video, because I didn't want anyone to really get in the I felt I needed to do it myself, try to do it at least. So it was the first time I was doing like a full music video, and definitely that my intention was to bring these ancient references, and in the middle of the pandemic, how small we are. Just a pandemic stopped the world, and here we are in the 21st century. It was crazy, and let's go back and see try to have these ancient references and put ourselves in perspective, in a way, and through meditation, through.
A lot of your music is, not all, but quite a bit of it is meditative, isn't it? Or would you say just reflective, where a person, it's not background music, you're not cooking and putting on your music, or maybe some people are. To me, when I see what you've done, I need to sit and kind of really chill and get into the music, and especially with these music videos. Does that sound right? I mean,
Definitely.
is that what your intention is? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, for this music, definitely that album, which is called A Desert Night of Tranquility, it's intended to be a meditation, a meditative album, and to be in the moment, not to put it in the background, because I felt, and the energy that was put in there is for that. Is not us. I've done background music, and it's a different feeling. So the majority of my music, you're right, has a sometimes unintentionally it becomes has a this spiritual depth, and people have told me that in the beginning I wasn't really aware of that. Some tracks, as I'm saying, I'm aware of that's the intention, but with other ones that wasn't the intention, but they ended up having that depth as well.
Well, I think it's a very, very beautiful thing where someone can watch something or listen to music and actually go into another state where you just get away from everything going on in your life, all the things you have to do, and maybe people you met that day, people, you have to meet, or chores you have to do, and to just sort of be. And that's what I feel from you, is like you have this feeling of the moment is so special, right? Like you said, be present. So I'm wondering, do you personally have a meditative practice, or is your meditative practice what you do as a composer and musician?
Well, I take my music, I mean, playing and doing music and composing music, but mostly it started by playing. It became my meditation every day. I started young playing music, but then while I was debating if I would professionally dedicate my life to music, which was a very stressful period of my life, as you can imagine, it's not an easy decision. Playing piano in a meditative way, and it became out of my meditation. So that was a moment for me. A special moment is usually at night, late at night, that I would play, and it became clear to me that I should do this, try to do it at least professionally. So I never meditated formally, but that became a sort of a practice that I've kept even for up to until today, that just play to relax and to go to different states through this music. And that's actually how also eventually I had the idea of why not finally make an album that I could listen to as a meditative album, which is the one that we just saw.
And this is called Beyond, for anybody who wants to see it. It's on YouTube, right? Beyond by Gabo.
Right.
Gabo is your professional musical name, right?
For my electronic music, I go under Gabo, and right, that's the.
And they could
Gabo
find this online if they would. Why don't we show another music video so they can get a feeling of the difference? It's a lot of variety in what you do. So yeah, we'll go to that right now. Yeah, beautiful. So we have a taste of something very different. And if someone were to go and look at all that you've done, there are so many different, different types of music and videos. And you also work with filmmakers, right? So they come up with the video and you create the music.
Right.
Yeah.
For example, this video, it was made by an video artist called Ervin Georgi here in Miami. And he liked my music, and we started collaborating, and I asked him, why not you try to do a music video? And he came up with this video. It's a beautiful video. So, and other times I collaborate with other video artists, and different collaborations, types of, and for film, yes, that's a little different. I've done commissioned work, which people ask me to create the soundtrack, but I always try that people contact me because of the music my original music I'm trying to do, and not just because any standard film music that is needed, because there's so many ways to put music on a film, and so luckily that's what's been happening with documentaries lately. And so my music, that some of it has this spiritual depth, and end up in the documentary films.
So it's kind of a matter of who comes to you and what it is that they're looking for as well. People that do, contract you, to do some work. And I know that you do spend a lot of time in California. So again, that's a whole different vibe, right? What we would see in Miami, you've done a lot in Miami, but what you do in California, it's quite different.
Right. In California, I worked for a TV, a little bit writing music for TV projects, and so that's different. That's more a fixed job in a way. But I do that very little, actually. I try to, as much as possible, do and push the music, my original music, as long as it can be used on visual projects. I think it's also the bottom line is it's a more truthful experience than just be hired to make such and such music, because
I would think
a lot of filmmakers, they don't know what they want.
They don't know in terms of the music.
Right, some do, but yeah, so that's my take on trying to elevate as much as possible, or try to do something different instead of just a standard or something more standard in a way. I mean, yeah.
I mean, what I feel about you is, and I see it, is that you are a super creative person. So you don't want to do things over and over again. Every project is unique, and you totally get absorbed in that, excuse me, in that project. And so is it always like kind of a challenge for you as a composer and the musician? Or sometimes you're just the composer, right? Or you're always doing both?
Yeah, sometimes I'm only the composer, especially for the film, the scores. I've worked with musicians, so they play the music that I've written. That it varies. I mean, it's not a fixed situation, I would say.
Yeah. I did also want to mention that you've had quite an education as well. You went to one of the top, maybe music school, or one of them in the country, in America. And then you went to France and you continued music studies. So maybe just give me an idea of your background and how that kind of influenced what you do now.
Right. So I lived many years in Venezuela, and then I just started studying music there. But then I had the opportunity to go to Boston. So I graduated from Berkeley, which I basically went there because of the technology side of music, on all the better understanding all that, the digital production. And then, funny enough, I had a proposal to make the music for film, which actually came from Miami at that time. And then I realized, although I always liked music for film, and even when I was in my country, I scored a couple of college projects that ended up winning a few awards in the college circuit. But when I had that proposal in the US after graduating, I realized I didn't have the skills. I need more skills to write music for film. And that gave me the excuse also to go to France, where I have family as well. And I always wanted to live in France. By that time I had been going several times on discovery trips, sort of, and I wanted to be there and study more film music, but from the European perspective, more than the strictly commercial perspective that you find, or at least they were teaching mostly back then in Boston. So in France, I had the opportunity to study with a composer that had worked in the French New Wave, with Godard, all these people, Truffaut, all these people, and then I studied more classical music on the side with other teachers, and at the same time I met video artists and choreographers. So we started doing experiments. I did the soundtrack for video installations, and also from that collaboration came the ocean project called Deep Surface, which is a pluridisciplinary project involving dance and video, which coincidentally enough ended up having its premiere in Miami Beach years later. So
I wanted to say something about Miami Beach, because Miami Beach has really taken notice of you. I'm looking here, I can't find it right now, but you've done so many projects for the city of Miami Beach. So we're very happy to have you, right? You live there on Miami Beach, or you did?
Well, I live across the
water, yeah. But you actually have collaborated or worked a lot with the city of Miami Beach. So, is there always, like you said, one of your big projects was the Ode to the Sea, and your love for the sea, which shows up in your music and shows up, I'd say, more in the video that's connected to your music. So is there an environmental message that you're also conveying as an artist with your work?
Definitely. And that became more apparent when I consciously wanted to do work about the sea. That came after several stays in an island back in my country, and then also in the different stays in Miami when I wasn't living here. I always loved the sea because when I grew up, we would go every weekend almost, taking long trips to a remote beach. So when we started this poetic project, which is called Deep Surface, it was more about the poetry and how you can integrate or be inspired just on the physicality of the sea, right? The colors, the mass, the power. But then, of course, we learned and we had the support from the UNESCO and the International Ocean Commission. So we had access to some information regarding pollution, and we learned about the serious issues with pollution in the sea. And that definitely hit me very, very deeply and became one part of the project. One section of the project is dedicated to pollution. And on the other hand, on my other music as Gabo, which is usually more light-hearted music, even though there's no engagement for activism as the other project has, my music has always some underlying subtle message of how beautiful we take all this from the sea, and let's be aware of the nature.
Yeah, that's really what I really love about, people who are artists and have dedicated their lives to their art, is that it's not usually just about, making some music or painting a nice picture. There usually is something deeper, right? Something that you're trying to communicate or trying to say to the world as you go. You might not start out with that, right? You might not say, well, I'm going to, have a message here, but does it sort of come with the process?
I agree, definitely.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the deeper you go, when you try different things, then you realize, well, first of all, nature is, we are part of nature. So, and this time of an age that we are, which is critical, I guess it would be irresponsible not to try to do something to protect and improve nature, because it's in its degradation state is pretty serious. And then if you have some voice or some emotional channels that would eventually influence in a good way people to mobilize, that's also the role of the arts. It could be a very powerful role of the arts because of the emotional aspect.
I think in a way, the artists today are more aware of this than ever before, that they can create messages or do something that moves people to see things in a different way. I'm just thinking of a piece of work that I saw at PAM a few years ago, and it was just one room filled with, it was a beach, and then just filled with all the junk this artist had found on the beach, like just cans and just garbage and everything had found on the beach and in the ocean, I guess, or near the ocean. So it wasn't something you have to read in the newspaper to learn about all the, pollution and what's going on. But to see it was like, oh my God, this is what we are doing to our oceans, throwing the cans out, leaving the bottles, all the garbage without always thinking, oh, the ocean is so vast that it can take it. Well, it can't, it's getting to that breaking point, but it had a big effect on me, and maybe even inspired me to be more, recycle more, be more aware of what I'm doing, in my personal life. So, I mean, artists, I feel like artists really do have the power or the potential to affect change in some way.
I definitely believe in that. And that's also part of why, or what I'm doing. And sometimes it's very difficult, but yeah, I definitely believe, and there's proof of that, the power of the arts.
Yeah,
sure.
To really affect change. It's just a pleasure getting to interview you and see some more of your work. And again, I want to say that if anybody wants more, to hear more of your music, maybe tell them again where they can find your music.
All right.
Yeah.
It's just gabomusic.com.
Gabo, right? Gabo.
gabomusic.com, and all the links are there. The video that we just saw, it's there, and other videos as well. So, and for the other project, Deep Surface, we are in the making of a follow-up project. So we'll see in the coming year. So. And that is just Deep Surface, deep-surface.org.
Deep-surface.org.
Right.
That's also our site, a website.
Right.
Great. And again, your name is, as I said at the beginning, Gabriel Pulido, Pulido. But I think they can find you easier, Gabo, right, on the web. I wish you continued success, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about you and seeing more of you in the coming months and years. Great to talk with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Meredith. Good to be with you.
Thank you all for watching and listening, and I'm sure enjoying what Gabriel has to, what he creates and what he engages us to see and to feel. And I also want to thank Nita from the Brahma Kumari's Meditation Center for being our technical director and always there to help and be part of conversations with friends. Thank you so much.